A lot to cover here, so let's get more insight into this election. We are joined by Abdullahi Boru Halakhe. Thanks very much for joining us. I certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Let's just kind of, before we get into all the concerns, let's kind of focus on what you believe the candidates are really trying to appeal to voters about, and where do the votes stand now? Will we know who the winner is going to be soon?
Thank you so much. I think, like you mentioned, there are 18 candidates, and the three major ones are Mr. Tinubu, Atiku, as well as Peter Obi. I think all the candidates understand that the economy is the primary thing. And this is because Nigeria's economy hasn't been doing well. It had the misfortune of, at the time when Buhari came in 2015, being hit by global commodity plunge. And in 2019, they tried to close the border in order to encourage, Nigerians to produce their own goods to avoid importing them from the neighboring countries. And then 2020 was struck by COVID. All these came together at a bad time for an economy that is already struggling, and this is making many voters very, very worried. Closely aligned to that is insecurity, which feeds off poor economy.
Right, and those two really kind of go hand in hand right now, because there's a lot of concern about the oil resources simply being squandered, corruption, pollution. I could go on and on about that, and also the insurgents in the northern part of the country. How are voters reacting to what the candidates are saying about those two issues?
Probably the voters would want a change, because Atiku Abubakar has run for he's run for election for the presidency 5 times. He's been vice president, he's been everything. He's been around the corridors of power. Mr. Tinubu has been around as well. He is part of the old guard. That is why for a lot of people, much as he's not that young, at 60 years of age, Mr. Peter Obi is exciting people. But again, we have to be very careful, because whereas he can excite young people in urban areas that have got mobile phone and others, the large basket of votes really are in the rural areas, and that he's doing relatively well, including winning in a state that Mr. Tinubu's state of Lagos. That is a tremendous vote of confidence, but we've got to wait for a few days to get a full picture.
As we talked about, it's the most populous country on the continent. What about the candidates' plans for addressing inflation, unemployment? We talked about it. The young, 1 out of 5 is out of a job. More than 50%, 60% of the country is facing severe food shortage concerns, and that probably isn't going to get any better, considering the ongoing strife in Ukraine and Russia and the competition for food in other areas.
It is very important that you mentioned that. I think for a country of this size, for a country of this resource level, Nigerians shouldn't be facing this. 60 million is a huge number that we are speaking about. People cannot, live above the poverty line. That is a massive problem. All the candidates have ideas that range from fanciful, from fairly reasonable in trying to address that. But the real problem really is Nigeria's economy is not in a good place. And a couple of things why this is the problem, even outside the electoral cycle. The current effort of trying to have gasoline subsidies is a really big problem. The second one, effort by the central bank to continue propping up Naira, that is Nigeria's currency, is causing a lot of pain. Some of the candidates have said that they will do away with exchange control, and some have said that we need to address corruption, where a lot of oil revenue is bled via corruption. But I think it will take more than just hope and some of these aspirations that political leaders are putting out in really addressing Nigeria's problem. Here's why. By 2050, Nigeria's population will be 450 million.
Wow.
It will make it the third largest population. Nigeria's GDP is larger than 14 regional countries combined. That means if Nigeria does well, these countries in the region also does well.
You know, it's as though you can look at my notes. I had that written down here. And what are the other countries? Clearly, they're watching what's going on there. There has to be some concern, not only with the abject poverty and the ongoing need for the food crisis, but also the threat of insurgents. That certainly weighs on that entire region.
It really does, because Nigeria's military, Nigeria's security agencies, riddled with corruption, has also been spread extremely thin. Because a lot of the time we look at, some of these crises, particularly security crises, and say, oh, they don't come from a vacuum. Once the state authority cannot extend its legitimacy, its use of force in a very in a specific geography, that creates chance for, bad faith actors to come and take that space. And so Nigeria really needs to sort out its insecurity, because by the end of last year, 10,000 Nigerians died because of insurgency or jihadi movement in the northern part of the country. That is a lot of people, but that also means that because of insecurity, many Nigerians are not able to attend to their daily economic activities.
In just a few words, when is this going to be over? When will Nigeria know who its new president is?
When the electoral body says it's over, because of initial technical problems and the sheer size, because it's 93.5 million voters. So I think patience will be the best way.
Okay. Abdullahi Boru Halakhe, thank you very much for your insight. We certainly appreciate it.
My pleasure.